The hunger for completion starts early. A child imagines the next toy will still the restlessness. The student transfers hope to grades, the graduate to career, the adult to partnership, property, or praise. Each arrival provides a brief glow, yet the original ache survives the celebration. Years accumulate, the wish for final relief remains unsigned. At first the mind blames circumstance, wrong school, wrong job, wrong city. Eventually the evidence points elsewhere. External conditions change, incompleteness endures. That observation is the doorway to deeper inquiry. What if the ache survives every victory because the one celebrating those victories has been misidentified from the beginning? The assumption feels harmless, I am this body and its story, yet it turns each accomplishment into a temporary patch, never the cure. One hard look at that premise changes the entire search. Trouble begins the moment attention narrows to flesh and biography. A body carries instinctive fears and appetites that revive the instant they are fed. Identify with that bundle and frustration is baked in. The mind keeps offering upgrades, new house, cleaner diet, advanced workshop. None address the root confusion. Notice how quickly excitement drains after any purchase, the mechanism is visible every time. Self-knowledge, in this context, is not collecting mystical data about an inner essence. It is relentless clarity about what doesn't belong to you. Begin there. Sensations surge and fade. Moods pivot without notice. Memory rearranges yesterday to flatter today's opinion. All observed, all transient. The observer alone does not swing. Recognizing that fact erodes the conviction that experience equals identity. Imagine sitting in a completely dark room. Darkness seems substantial until someone cracks the door. Light enters, darkness doesn't exit. It had never been a presence, only the absence of seeing. Unquestioned belief works the same way. The statement, I am this body, was accepted without examination, so every fear and craving of the organism felt personal. Let one shaft of inquiry slip in, what if this sensation isn't me but only passing through me? And the supposed substance of worry shows its emptiness. Names and forms resemble jewelry. Shapes glitter, labels impress, yet scrape the surface and only gold remains. The ring and necklace borrow value from that underlying substance, melt them and their separate identities vanish while nothing essential is lost. In daily life the equivalents of shape and label, status, gender, age, reputation, borrow reality from awareness itself. Mistake the ornament for the gold and anxiety follows. Recognize the substrate and the ornaments can come and go without tyranny. How to recognize? Shift attention 2 inches inward. While words flow, feel the quiet fact of being that precedes each sentence. It hums before thought describes it, it outlives every opinion. Rest there for half a breath, then resume activity. The exercise is that simple, yet its implications reach beyond memory and sensation. The body still appears, but ownership loosens, tension around survival goals softens because existence is no longer pinned to skin. A subtle opening becomes detectable, like a pinprick in paper through which boundless light shines. The opening itself is not the light, it is simply an absence where the finite gives way to the unmeasured. Stand mentally at that threshold and the usual push to accumulate or defend loses urgency. Silence is no effort, it is the default revealed when noise ceases to impress. From silence, everyday scenes regain proportion. A colleague's criticism registers, yet no reflex rises to guard an image. Hunger signals, food is chosen, nothing extra clings. Cash comes, cash goes, the ledger of possession no longer dictates mood. The nervous system, relieved of constant modeling and forecasting, settles into slower breath and unclenched muscle. None of these shifts are cultivated as goals, they are side effects of refusing to misidentify with passing form. Sometimes the body's momentum still sweeps attention back into old grooves. Recognize the slip without drama. Resistance tightens the groove, acknowledgement loosens it. One conscious exhale, one glance at the felt sense of being, and the groove releases. Each cycle of forgetting and remembering shortens naturally until the sense of being lost cannot root. But will this detachment dull compassion? Observed plainly, the heart's response grows sharper. Without personal agenda muddying perception, another's pain is seen without projection, and appropriate action follows swiftly or not at all. Effort spent rehearsing self-image is freed for real listening. Relationships often report freshness, not because one tries to improve them, but because less interference stands between presence and circumstance. Care becomes practical rather than egoic. The organism is maintained as one would maintain a vehicle, clean fuel, sensible rest, without weaving identity from its performance. Pleasure is not forbidden, it simply carries no promise of ultimate completion, so guilt and craving fade in equal measure. There are environments where persistent insult or manipulation overwhelms the current capacity to remain clear. Stepping away is then the most respectful option. Withdrawal honors the recognition that peace is primary soil, where soil is poisoned, seeds rest until relocation is possible. Leaving need not be dramatic. Even temporary retreat resets alignment before re-engagement. Practice consists of 3 quiet moves: recognize a thought as transient, relocate attention to the simple sense of aliveness, resume activity from that unmoved center. Repetition ingrains familiarity, familiarity matures into second nature. No ceremony is required, no checklist survives scrutiny, because the point is subtraction. What remains after subtraction proves self-evident. Over months, memory itself changes texture. Events are stored minus the glare of self-reference, recall sharpens, creativity spins freely because energy once tied up in protecting an image now circulates. The world does not alter its weather, yet every scene arrives with more color, less threat. Nothing was missing, only a misplacement of identity produced the impression of lack. Correct the placement, and the search ends where it began, in the plain, wordless awareness that quietly witnessed every milestone and never required a single one. A sense of lack first announced itself in childhood when a toy broke and the hollow feeling lingered long after the plastic was swept away. Decades later the stage scenery has changed, yet the same ache keeps its appointment. The pattern invites a deeper question: what exactly is the someone doing the longing? Every wish arises inside a single assumption: I am this body that needs constant improvement. The assumption hides in plain sight. It speaks through hunger, pride, subtle dread of mortality, the daily itch to secure more comfort or admiration. While that voice sets the rules, peace remains conditional and brief. Investigating begins by recognizing that the body sense itself comes and goes. Close the eyes and notice sensations flicker: pressure against the chair, pulse in the temple, warmth on the skin. Each appears, alters, fades. Whatever perceives these shifts is steadier than the shifts. That perceiving presence cannot be weighed, colored, or photographed, yet it registers every color, weight, and photograph that enters awareness. Imagine entering a room kept shutterdark for years. Furniture feels solid only until a window is unlatched, daylight pours in, shapes dissolve into ordinary dust, and the idea of darkness proves to have been nothing but unexamined habit. Belief in, I am the body, is that closed window. Opening it is not an achievement, only the end of negligence. Confusion often pushes back, if I am not the body, why do I bleed when cut? Sensation is acknowledged, practical steps are taken, but the fundamental identity does not collapse into the bruise. A bank teller counts money all day without believing she is the banknote. In the same way, consciousness can register physical events without mistaking itself for flesh. Turning inward further, thought streams reveal themselves as just that, streams. They comment, predict, criticize, reminisce. None remain. To claim ownership of any thought is like claiming ownership of passing clouds. Withdraw the claim and the sky gains depth previously hidden by commentary. Names and shapes receive their seeming weight from silent awareness, the way gold lends value to necklaces and rings. Melt the ornament and the metal neither increases nor diminishes, only form changes. Likewise, when attention rests in its own source, roles, memories, and emotions rearrange or even vanish, while the underlying aliveness stays untouched. The mind searches for a climax, a final insight to frame and keep. That search is itself another ornament. The opening at the center of consciousness, a gap without boundary, does not announce itself with thunder. It is present now, requiring no attainment, offering no certificate. Notice the gap, and the urge to decorate it subsides. Shift attention from the cadence of words to the quiet that listens. In that quiet, longing finds no target because nothing is missing. The body continues practical tasks, yet the invisible anchor no longer drifts with every tide of circumstance. Peace has moved from future promise to present fact, revealed by the simple refusal to misidentify. Sometimes inquiry benefits from an image the intellect can hold while old reflexes unwind. Picture a charcoal drawing left in bright rain. Lines that once looked permanent begin to bleed, until the page shows only faint smudges and untouched paper. Identification with the body-mind is the drawing, alert examination is the rain. Nothing is torn away, yet the scene loses authority with every new droplet of seeing. Another angle, recall a moment when you almost fell asleep in a chair and the world seemed half opaque, half transparent. In that borderline clarity the usual storyline lacked urgency. That same easing of tension can be invited midday by pausing and sensing raw presence behind the sternum or between breaths. No mantra is required, the pause itself disables habitual labeling long enough for space to widen. Attention drifts again and again. Treat each drift as evidence of remaining fascination with images, not as proof of failure. The moment recognition returns, the circuit breaks and unused energy flows back toward the center. Over hours or weeks the return speeds up, like a compass needle that chooses north with less wobble each time it is disturbed. Resistance may surface in practical disguise. The mind argues that dismissing personal identity will dull motivation, jeopardize relationships, or blunt compassion. But when action springs from clear seeing instead of self-concern, tasks finish with less friction, words land with fewer unintended echoes, care moves where needed and withdraws when complete. Efficiency is the byproduct of a psyche no longer split between actor and self-observer. Subtle fears linger at the edge of consciousness, the worry that deep quiet could erase uniqueness, or that spacious awareness might become a refuge for avoidance. Address them with direct contact. Sit, stand, or walk while attending to the sense of being. Let plans proceed if they must, but refuse to grant them existential weight. Uniqueness remains as texture, not as burden. Engagement continues where life invites, and avoidance loses its appeal because nothing requires escape once it is recognized as thought-made. Occasional spikes of anxiety, anger, or melancholy still pass through the nervous system. When one appears, notice its texture without constructing narrative. The intensity registers, crests, subsides, all within the wider field that stays luminous regardless of weather. Repeated exposure to this cycle re-educates the organism. Emotions can discharge fully without commandeering identity. A few interactions will test the newfound stability. Loud opinions, urgent demands, sudden praise, each seeks a matching vibration. If no matching vibration is given, the wave ends where it started. This stopping without suppression is not indifference, it is refined participation. The environment receives unconfused presence and adjusts or not according to its own readiness. Periods of solitude reinforce the shift. 10 or 15 minutes with eyes closed, sensing the interior hum beyond words, clears residue left by collective conditioning. The same interval can be woven into commuting, queuing, or waiting for a page to load. Little by little the boundary between formal practice and ordinary living evaporates. Before long the state that once required effort to glimpse is actually the default. What seemed natural, constant self-talk and anticipatory tension, was merely familiar. Familiarity dissolves under scrutiny, revealing stillness as the ground rather than the visitor. It has not produced an improved version of the person, it has exposed personhood as a temporary costume. Experience may label this insight profound, yet the insight itself contains no drama. It is simpler than silence, closer than breath, prior to every sensation yet fully present within each one. Remaining loyal to that simplicity is the ongoing invitation.